Hey everybody, I'm Katallina, and today we're here to talk about episode 10 of the Misfit of Demon King Academy, season 2, core 2. I don't know about you, but that ending where the guy comes in, the dude with the purple hair, and he's basically like, Anos, I am your father. Not quite in that connotation, but you know what I'm talking about there. That totally threw me for a loop, and it was one hell of a way to end an episode. It's probably the strongest cliffhanger we have actually had in this season, and we've had a couple really good ones, but I wonder, is he telling the truth? Is he making this up? And if he is Anno's father, I'm assuming from 2,000 years ago, what is his deal? What did we see him doing with Arcana earlier in the episode, and what was the deal with that? There is so much to consider here, and I certainly can't wait for next weekend to hopefully get some answers. And I'm not the only one looking for answers, because it seems like Arcana is looking for some answers of her own, and it seems like she's actually getting much closer to being able to actually get them. We actually find the god who is going to be able to hopefully help our characters restore their memories. And I found it very interesting because he was very pretty and very glittery. I really liked his design, but he gave them a really solid piece of advice that anyone trying to find out the truth of a situation must always consider. And that is the reality that the truth often comes with a price, and that price, in one way or another, is often pain. Because while truth is important and truth sets us free, truth can also often hurt, because while it often holds a glimmer of something that we believe in, care about, or want to acknowledge, it often also comes at the cost of having to acknowledge things that we would rather not remember, or that we would rather remain hidden. Because the core about truth is that truth is that thing sitting in the middle of the room, and what we think is on one end, what other people think is on another end, and no single individual or group has a monopoly on truth. Truth is, and that's the end of it. It is what actually happened. And then we, as people, end up spinning narratives about what we saw. Think of it like a pill bottle. If you take a pill bottle or a pop bottle or anything that's round and that you can only see so much of at a given time, you might be able to imagine what's on the other side of that bottle, but you cannot see all of it at once. Truth is much like that. We see things based off of our perceptions, our values, and all that sort of thing. And it means that we cannot generally, at least in our own natural way, see what's going on. We have to try and think about what's on the other side of the issue. And considering what we saw, again, with that flashback with Arcana, and we will get to that, it's definitely likely that there is something there that is probably going to smart quite badly when she finds out just what it is that she is missing. But I admire the fact that they brought that up, and I find it interesting that they brought up something that ties to such an interesting philosophical concept. And that wasn't the only fantastic philosophical idea that they actually brought up and explored in this story during this episode. That seems to be a thing with the show, and I really love it. And what they did at the start of the episode, exploring the importance and value of faith, was also extremely well done. That's a topic we've been kind of brushing up against in each episode in this particular arc, and today's conversation seemed to be about how much of one's overall time and effort that faith should actually take up. Because I think that it's a really interesting thing to think about, because sometimes people get so wrapped up in the ideas and the monotony of what it can mean to have faith in something or someone or some spiritual concept or whatever, that they can actually make it take up too much of a portion of their life, and it actually ends up being a net negative. It can burn them out. It can end up making them unreasonable or unable to think clearly, or a variety of other things. We see this symbolized through the prophet who is always praying, who cannot even accept a hand of aid and kindness from Anos in trying to create peace between their kingdoms, because his hands must be perpetually clasped in prayer. And I mean, I can understand the importance of devotion to what one believes. I think that's incredibly valuable. But I think that there's such a thing as taking it too far And I like the fact that we see a character who is obviously doing that in the prophet, and we see the acknowledgement of value and importance of faith, even though someone doesn't share it, and the way that we can be kind and decent to each other, regardless of what each of us individually believes in the behaviors and offers of Anos, who indicates that although he wants to make sure of certain things that are going on, the fact that he wants to get rid of the God selection process as an example, he doesn't want to take away the faith of these people, and he doesn't want to subjugate and rule over them. He thinks that it is important to realize the fact that there is a true form of peace, and that requires that different people be able to live their lives in tandem. The idea that Anos's concept of true peace requires that different people be able to live their separate lives with their separate values, understanding and recognizing that different people are going to and will believe different things, with the one constant being that they should respect each other's right to do so, is a fascinating piece of thought work and philosophy that is definitely worthy of consideration. I also like the fact that when they're talking about this, the battle that he has against this prophet is largely not about some kind of great spell work from him, but rather the singing of the demon choir yet again, which was a great way to symbolize what's going on here, because this is a battle of spirit, and because in many faiths, worship, often performed via music, is one of the most crucial aspects of what goes down. So that was clever as well. The last major piece of symbolism that I want to talk about is something that I was thinking about as I was watching them enter the dream sequence in this episode, and that is that I don't think I've touched on why I figure that these characters are getting naked to actually perform this ritual. I don't think this is being done in some form of eroticism, because the artwork that's being used, and outside of a bit of silly comedy, the way that it's being portrayed isn't really leaning into that enough for that to make a lot of sense. More so because we're trying to go into these dreams and we're trying to find out about the past. I think that the reason the characters need to be naked and touching is because of the fact that the concept of being naked is about being able to see clearly, to not have one's thoughts obfuscated, and to be able to get to the heart of a matter. And the reason for touching is to ensure that they are all sharing the same dream. So I thought that was pretty interesting, and going inside of the dream, we definitely made some interesting progress here as well, because we actually see Arcana in her smaller form going outside while Chibi Anos is napping, and we see her meet the purple-haired man that I was talking about at the start of our discussion, the man who claims to be Anos' father, and we see that he actually is trying to get this letter to Anos that keeps being rejected or whatever, and he gives it to Arcana and tells her that if she can get Anos to look at it, that he will reward her, and Arcana indicates that she wants to be able to use magic, and this man tells her that he thinks it's likely that her magic has been sealed. This made me think about what was going on with that god we were talking to, who's potentially unlocking her memories in the present. I wonder if this unsealing of her magic, much like the risk of retaining her memories in present day, is something that's going to end up causing Arcana a lot of pain. And I wonder if it's something to do with this magic or with that letter that is going to be the thing that is being blocked in her memories. And whether that's being blocked for good reason, whether some form of her subconscious has blocked that from her because it is going to be truly painful, and she is going to find out something about her past that she isn't going to like. The thing I want to leave you guys on in this conversation is the idea that he tells Arcana not to read the letter. And we've got to remember, this is like childhood Arcana. This is a little girl. Children tend to be incredibly curious. So in him telling her not to read the letter, he might as well have just opened it up and started reading it to her. Because I bet you anything, she is going to rip that thing open so fast, it's going to make our head spin. Because when it comes to saying something like do not do something to a kid, ultimately what you normally do with that is you end up making the thing in question become forbidden fruit. And it becomes very easy to get someone to do something that they might not have done otherwise. And I wonder whether this is going to end up being a mistake on this man's part, or whether this is part of some other plan. I also wonder myself what the contents of the letter are, and what exactly it is that this guy wants from our past Anos, because that is definitely a mystery we don't have the answer to yet. Overall, though, I thought this was a pretty good episode, and we definitely made some interesting progress and discoveries. And I definitely think that that is one of the craziest cliffhangers I've seen in a hot minute. I've seen a few this season, but this is definitely up there. That said, I'd love to know what you guys thought about this one, so feel free to drop a comment below and let me know, and I'll see you in the next video. Talk to you later. Bye!